Have you ever looked at a company's big annual report, seen all those numbers, and just wondered, can I actually believe any of this? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the one process that's designed to answer that exact question. We're talking about the financial audit.
Look, imagine you're about to invest your hard-earned money into a company. You're reading their report, and wow, the numbers look amazing. Profits are soaring, growth is through the roof. But there's that little voice in the back of your head asking, is this for real? That's not just a small question. That's the billion-dollar question that the whole audit process is built to answer. So why do we even have this gap in trust? Well, it comes down to something called the agency problem. And it's actually pretty simple. Think about it. You hire a mechanic to fix your car. You're the owner, but they're the expert running the show. You have to trust that they're telling you the truth. In the business world, it's the exact same thing. Shareholders own the company, but it's the managers who run it day to day. And there's this natural information gap between the two. And that's exactly where the audit steps in. It's designed to be that bridge of trust. The best way to think of it? It's like bringing in an independent referee, someone who's not on either team, to check the books and give an impartial view on how the game is being played. Okay, so here's the official kind of fancy term for what an audit is. It's an assurance engagement. And the most important word there is, you guessed it, assurance. An auditor doesn't create the numbers. Their entire job is to come in, run their checks, and give you, the investor, the employee, whoever, more confidence that the numbers you're looking at are reliable. So what level of confidence are we really talking about here? Well, it's a very specific high level called reasonable assurance. I like to think of it like getting a really thorough checkup from your doctor. They can't guarantee you'll never ever get sick, right? But based on all their tests, they can give you a very high degree of confidence that you're healthy right now. That's what reasonable assurance is. But, and this is a really important but, reasonable is not the same as absolute. An audit is not a 100% guarantee that every single number is perfect down to the last penny. And you know what? There are some very real practical reasons for that. I mean, just imagine trying to count every single grain of sand on a beach. It's impossible, right? So you take samples. That's kind of what auditors do with millions of transactions. They can't check every single one. They also have to use their professional judgment. And here's the big one. There's always the possibility of high-level fraud, where management actively works together to hide things. This is exactly what happened with the infamous Enron scandal. It's a stark reminder that even a tough audit can be fooled if people are determined enough to lie. So, knowing they can't check everything, how on earth do auditors tackle such a massive job? Well, they don't just go in randomly. They have a very clear playbook, and it all starts with one thing: risk. First, they put on their detective hats, and they sniff out the high-risk areas. These are the places where a big error, what they call a material misstatement, is most likely to be hiding. And by material, we mean an error big enough that it could actually change an investor's decision. Then they test the company's own internal systems, kind of like checking the locks on the doors. And finally, they roll up their sleeves and dig into the details, but they focus all their energy where it matters most. This entire process we just talked about, it's all designed to avoid one thing: the auditor's absolute worst nightmare. It's called audit risk, and it's the terrifying possibility that they give a thumbs up, a clean bill of health, to a set of books that are actually flat out wrong. That's what keeps them up at night. But you know, this whole system of trust completely collapses if the referee isn't neutral. And that's why ethics, and especially independence, are the absolute non-negotiable bedrock of the entire auditing profession.
You can think of these as the 5 commandments for every auditor. At their core, they're all about one thing: maintaining public trust. Integrity and objectivity are the really big ones. You gotta be honest, and you can't be biased. Without those two, the whole system just doesn't work. It's that simple.
Let's make this really concrete. A self-interest threat, that's pretty straightforward. You can't own shares in a company you're auditing. That's a massive conflict of interest. But an intimidation threat can be a little more subtle. That's when a client might say something like, you know, if you don't agree with our numbers, we might just have to find a new audit firm next year. Being able to resist those kinds of pressures is what makes an auditor truly independent. Okay, so after all of that risk assessment, all the testing, and all the evidence gathering is finally done, what's the end result? It all comes together in one single, incredibly important document: the audit report. Now, this is probably the most important thing to get. What the auditor gives you is their professional opinion. It is not a statement of fact. Think of an art critic. They give you their expert opinion on a painting, but they can't give you a fact about its beauty. It's the same idea here. An auditor gives a highly informed professional judgment, not a mathematical certainty. So what are the possible verdicts? Really, you've got two main flavors. An unmodified opinion is basically a clean bill of health. It's a big thumbs up from the auditor. But a modified opinion, well, that's a flashing red light. It's the auditor's way of saying, Houston, we may have a problem here.
And that flashing red light comes in a few different shades. Think of it like a restaurant review. A qualified opinion is like saying, the food was great, but the service was really slow. An adverse opinion is like saying, this entire meal was terrible, do not eat here. And a disclaimer of opinion is like saying, I couldn't even get a table, so I honestly can't tell you anything at all.
All right, let's nail this down once and for all. An audit report is an opinion, not a guarantee. It offers a high level of assurance, not a certification that the company is fraud-free. And it's a check on the fairness of the numbers, not an assessment of how well the business is performing. If you can remember those distinctions, you've totally grasped the essence of an audit. You know, in a world that feels increasingly filled with misinformation, the need for trusted, independent verification is more critical than it's ever been. The financial audit might seem like this dry, technical process buried in paperwork, but really, it's one of the most powerful tools we have for keeping the engine of our economy running on what matters most, trust.